listening to Ring Chronicles with Lance Vaughn and Glenn Ritchie.
All right, we're back. How's it going?
Well, I've had a lot happen this week.
I bet.
We skipped a week because I had a family emergency.
Right.
And I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hangry.
Yep.
I'm worn out.
Yeah.
And I've had to deal with all these comments from the AEW Reddit moderators
Right.
about the Tuesday Night War all week.
Yeah, there's that.
So today's topic, we're going to talk about switching sides, but apparently switching shows and times
right.
and everything else. There's a lot of switching going on.
Right.
And I'm not talking about my grandma telling me to go out in the yard and grab a switch. I'm talking about wrestlers changing promotions, switching nights in which shows on. You know, SmackDown's been on like every night of the week at some point, just about. And wrestlers going from one promotion to another.
Yep.
So this is obviously something that's going on for a long time, but I would say that it's more significant now than it's been since WCW and ECW were around.
Yeah.
Obviously, there were wrestlers that went from the WWE to Impact.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Quite a few of those.
Yeah.
But it was more the guy that likes Vince Russo might hate me for saying this.
Yeah.
But when wrestlers were going from the WWE to Impact, it was like they were going to a retirement home or maybe a graveyard.
You can say the same thing when wrestlers were going to WCW.
Yeah,
but there was a lot of jokes made about how. I remember one time Mick Foley made a joke. He said, "I thought about going to WCW, but I'm not quite old enough yet."
Well, here's the thing about that, though. Here's the thing. First of all those wrestlers that were coming to the WCW were still well-respected in their industry and well-loved by the fans.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon, with the whole new generation thing, thought that the fans wanted young talent, but they really wanted to see Hulk Hogan. They really wanted to see the Macho Man, okay? Yeah. And I mentioned Diesel's reign from quite a while back,
right?
From late 94 to late 95. That reign had poor ratings along that time for the WWF at that time.
Right.
And things were not heading in a good direction. 1995 was the first year that WCW was profitable.
Okay.
So that was shortly, within just a few months of getting Hulk Hogan on board.
Right.
Hulk Hogan was still money. So I disagree with that. I don't think going to WCW was like going to the graveyard or going to the retirement home.
Right.
Hulk Hogan still drew. And when he started to draw less, what did they do? They turned him heel.
Right.
And they combined him with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
Yep.
And at that point, you know, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were very well known in the industry, well respected. Brought them over to so there was more switching that took place. It's kind of good that we're talking about this particular switch first, with these guys in particular, because it was probably the biggest in history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also, though, I would like to point out that a lot of these older WCW guys would go on to back to the WWE. Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
I mean, they were still drawing in the 2000s. Think about the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair retirement match, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that was historic. I know Ric Flair has wrestled a billion times, and he's probably, I don't know if he wrestled, when was his last match? I don't know, but it's. I saw a thing on Facebook saying that of all the members of Evolution, Ric Flair is the most recent person to have a match out of all the members of Evolution. I
did see that. I saw that too.
Yeah. So But so Ric Flair can still draw,
Yeah.
even in his age now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Hulk Hogan can still draw.
Yep.
Into the 2000s, and when he went to Impact, it was a big deal for Impact. So, but it was at that point it definitely was the retirement home, the graveyard, and AEW really has to work hard to not look like the WWE rejection pool. Okay?
Right.
They've already had CM Punk. Okay. I wouldn't call Edge a rejection, but he's not in his prime.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of talent that's been released by WWE recently. And that's another thing we can talk about is talent getting released.
Right.
And they got to be careful about who they take out of that pool. There's definitely some people they should take, and there's some people that they should leave alone. One person they should leave alone is what Jim Cornette likes to call flop dollar. He's top dollar. That guy just needs to stay in the Indies as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But if AEW wanted to get Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin, those two guys would be good grabs for AEW.
Yeah.
I'm really disgusted that they let go of Dolph Ziggler. That man, I don't think it's the highest, but I think he has the second highest number of matches in WWE history.
Really?
Yeah. I think the only one that has him beat is Kane.
Wow.
Okay. So this guy that has, busted his tail for, many, many, many years, literally taken untold number of bumps for this organization, just cut him loose. Former world champion.
Yeah.
Cut him loose. The guy was seriously underrated. He didn't have the charisma of Shawn Michaels, but he had the wrestling skill of a Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
He got compared to Shawn Michaels quite a bit. He wrestled a lot like Shawn Michaels, maybe a little bit too much. But I was okay with it. I mean, it's not like he was stealing moves from Shawn Michaels while Shawn Michaels was active. That's the thing that we've talked about this before, about wrestlers getting inspiration from other wrestlers in wrestling history.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it as long as that wrestler is not like in their prime still wrestling.
Right.
You're going to do that. And sometimes there's going to be some crossover, like, Ric Flair fighting Buddy Rogers in a match.
Yeah.
They're both a Nature Boy.
Right.
So back to the Hollywood Hogan, Kevin Nash, NWO thing. Those three guys switching to WCW are really what blew things up. I mean, of course, there was a lot of other wrestlers that were part of WCW that made a WCW special. And, of course, you had to have foils for these guys like Sting and Goldberg and things like that, DDP.
Yeah.
Those were the WCW talents that they nurtured and brought up.
Right.
But WCW also did some really stupid stuff. I mean, how was it that they fired Steve Austin? I can't remember. It was by a letter in the mail or a fax or something. I can't remember.
I think Bischoff fired him over the phone.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was some really crappy way of firing him. But you fired like the biggest star of like the 90s.
Yeah. I actually saw an old clip of Bischoff. I don't know what show it was from. It was in the 90s, though, but it was when Steve Austin had blown up in the WWF as Stone Cold. And Bischoff sat there and tried to say that he would be a mid-carder in WCW.
Really?
Yeah. I'll have to pull that up and show you. But
my God.
It just sounded like, somebody was butthurt over his success.
And then you remember the night that Mick Foley won the world title, and WCW made fun of him, and Mick Foley wrestled for them in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just so disrespectful.
Yeah.
That was another guy that they lost,
Yeah.
that they cut loose or whatever.
Well, the best thing about that was I think it was Tony Schiavone that made fun of him, but of course he was told to make fun of him.
Yeah.
But he made fun of him, and then apparently like hundreds of thousands of people switched over instantly.
Yeah.
When Schiavone said that.
Well, yeah, because you would have had First of all, you had a lot of WCW fans that were also WWF fans at the time, but you also had WCW fans that remember Cactus Jack.
Yeah. Yep.
And they were like, well, what in the hell is happening over there? Cactus Jack is winning the world title. How did that happen?
Right.
So they switched and looked at it.
Yeah.
It could have became fans right there.
Yeah.
It could have been like the moment with you with the Steve Austin Bang 316 thing.
Yep.
They could have switched over right then and there, and there's fans lost right there.
Yep.
So wrestlers switching sides, they have the potential to fade into obscurity when they do this. And they also have the potential to bring their fans from one promotion to another promotion. CM Punk going to AEW.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. A lot of fans tuned in just because of that.
Yep.
Back in the territory days, wrestlers would also switch different territories, and that was also a major factor. We've talked in the past how women's wrestling was booked historically, where women would go from like territory to territory. I remember listening to the Jim Cornette podcast, and Brian Last was trying to get him to guess what year a card was by just reading. He wanted him to guess like what arena or what year by just reading who was on the card. Okay.
Wow.
And
I didn't tell him what promotion it was or anything.
nothing. Just who's on the card. And Jim Cornette's like trying to guess. And even if he doesn't get it right, he gets it in within like 6 months.
Right.
And like within a few counties. You know,
so he was guessing like the date and what show
the
it
date,
was.
the location.
So it could have been like a random Nitro or Raw or
no, we're talking about we were going back to like the 50s and 60s with
Oh
this.
my God.
Yeah. And you remember Slave Girl Moolah from the women's episode?
Yeah.
One of the cards had Slave Girl Moolah on the card.
Wow.
And his comment was, well, that could have been anywhere. Because Moolah was a female wrestler, and back then women could be anywhere.
Right,
They weren't exclusive to any particular territory.
Right.
So they had to travel a lot.
Yeah.
Women did.
We got to do that with you.
What do you mean? Oh, bring up a card and what was the match? I remember the guy that likes Vince Russo taking a wrestling almanac and like naming the card, and I would be like, "Oh, that was Slamboree '93." Man.
I wonder if he still has that.
Yeah, he probably does. But of course, that was about 20 years ago. I was a lot more advanced for my wrestling knowledge back then because I read everything.
Right.
So wrestlers would go from territory to territory. One thing that was very notable was Andre the Giant. Okay, Andre the Giant was a spectacle.
Right.
And the thing is, when you have a spectacle like Andre the Giant, he makes really big money, but after a while, he's no longer a spectacle.
Right.
Because you've already seen him multiple times.
Right.
So wrestlers like Andre the Giant would travel around from promotion to promotion because that's how he made the most money, was doing that way. He would go into a promotion and everybody would just be like, oh my God, it's Andre the Giant. And of course, people all over the world knew who Andre the Giant was. They heard of this guy. But if he hadn't made it to your territory yet, you hadn't seen him.
Right.
So you're going to just like hand the promoters your money to see Andre the Giant. Because, remember television was regional back then?
Yeah.
So you might have only had glimpses of Andre the Giant. And so you go to this show and you got Andre the Giant and you're just in awe of Andre the Giant.
Yep.
Of course, with cable and everything else, that need to travel was no longer there. Vince McMahon still was able to book Andre the Giant very well, made great use of him throughout the 80s.
Yeah.
until his wrestling ability became, so damaged by his physical health problems that he couldn't put on, something that, resembled a match. Also, you had wrestlers like Dusty Rhodes that would travel from different territories and so forth. And then you had wrestlers that were strongly associated with one particular territory, like Jerry Lawler associated with Memphis. Yeah. Okay. So the NWA World Heavyweight Champion would go from territory to territory as well to defend the title and would actually go across the world. Now, that's another thing, too. I feel like a world title should be defended across the world.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that irritates me with these indies calling their belt a world title when it's been, like, defended in 3 counties.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You don't have a world title.
Right.
At least AEW went to the UK.
Yeah.
So they did take a step by doing that.
It might. I don't remember what the card was, but it might have been defended in Japan too, because Jericho took it over to Japan, but I don't know if he actually defended it.
Yeah, but at least the belt went over there.
Right.
I mean, you got to give him at least some credit, Right. And now the thing that always pisses me off is this videotape of Hulk Hogan basically saying that the WWF world title means nothing to him. It's like a trinket. And like he's like got the belt on this like press conference and he says, I want the IWGP title. And of course, he didn't think that American fans would ever listen or watch that. Right. But now there's the internet.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, Hulk Hogan?
Oh, man.
Wow. That's another thing too. Wrestlers going to different promotions, but also remaining within their promotion. And that being a thing, the USWA in the 90s, a lot of the WWF talent that were faces would be heels in that territory. Jerry Lawler, who was a heel, was their primary face in that territory. So you also had wrestlers that would switch. And obviously we know throughout history, if a wrestler goes to their hometown, unless they're Kurt Angle, if a wrestler goes to their hometown, there's a good chance that the fans will respond differently to them.
MJF.
So in case you wonder what I'm talking about with Kurt Angle, when he was just beginning his career, was they were going to, I think it's Pittsburgh is his hometown? Yeah. So Vince was telling him that, I want you to go out there and basically, his gimmick, that he was a real wrestler. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He was a real wrestler, unlike all these wrestlers here. Okay, that was his gimmick. Yeah. It kind of broke the fourth wall, but in a very, very good way. In a way that I accepted. Okay. And Kurt Angle said, "This is my hometown. I'm like a legend here. Like they've done everything but built statues of me. They're not going to boo me here." And Vince is like, "Just trust me." Okay. So this is one of the times that Vince McMahon was right. So Kurt Angle goes out there and does all this crap, and of course the fans are just booing him. And see, I think that's when Kurt Angle realized his fans and professional wrestling fans are two mutually exclusive categories that have no crossover whatsoever. All the people that like Kurt Angle that are like on the county commission or whatever in Pittsburgh are not wrestling fans. The wrestling fans booed this guy to death. And I imagine it had to have been a surreal experience for the guy to get booed in his own hometown. So there are exceptions to that, but obviously, like when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were heels, they would go to Quebec, and of course, they're getting cheered in Quebec. So there's always exceptions to this, like Kurt Angle being an exception. So crossovers. One thing that I mentioned about before was when Dusty Rhodes went to the WWF, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of briefly talk about why that was significant. So Dusty Rhodes was one of the first big names from the NWA that went to the WWF. Harley Race did too.
Okay.
Now, Harley Race was past his prime when he went to the WWF. He still became King Harley Race, so he got something.
Yeah.
Actually got more than Dusty, if you consider that. But he was past his prime. But Dusty, while he wasn't in his prime, he wasn't way past his prime when he was in the WWF. And they gave him the ridiculous polka-dotted gimmick.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about what the WWE is going to do with Cody Rhodes. I'm hoping they didn't, like, trick this guy and, like, promise a bunch of stuff they're not going to deliver on just because they want to screw over one of the Rhodes again.
Right, again.
Because there's just been a terrible history with how the WWF has done with the Rhodes. Yeah. Even though Dustin did wonders with the Gold Dust gimmick, but it wasn't because of Vince McMahon that gimmick was successful. It was because of Dustin Rhodes that gimmick was successful. He was successful despite the gimmick. Okay?
I mean, he was the IC champion with that gimmick.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Yes, he was. And I believe he's won tag belts as well with that gimmick, too. I'd have to look it up. My brain's kind of, like I said, I'm hangry this week. So, Dusty Rhodes came there. You also had the Brainbusters that went there from the NWA, and Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. They did, if I remember correctly, achieve tag team gold. So there was that. But then you had Ric Flair come to the WWF. And Ric Flair actually won their title twice. This was a big freaking deal because this was an NWA talent. This was a Jim Crockett talent that went over to the other side, to the big leagues, and won their world title twice. Now,
was this when he brought the WCW belt over, the big gold belt?
The big gold belt. This is when he brought the big gold belt over. You know, Ric Flair would later win the Intercontinental title and the tag title, so he became a Triple Crown champion. I'm not sure if he was a Grand Slam champion or not. I don't know if he won the hardcore title or not, but I do remember he won the Intercontinental title later. But that was his second time in the 2000s when he was like old as death. And he wins the Intercontinental title and the tag titles.
Yeah.
So that was another crossover was when you had the WCW guys come over to the WWE, the WWF. Okay, it came in two waves. It came with the first wave being when WCW died and wrestlers immediately jumped over, like Booker T. Booker T struggled a lot at first. He accidentally injured Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was legitimate accident. What happened was Booker T slammed him through a table, but Steve Austin had a lot of sweat on him. And when he hit the table, he slid and fell into the floor.
Okay.
And so he landed very awkwardly on the table. It wasn't Booker T's fault.
Right.
But at first, Steve Austin was like, what the heck, man? You know, but he reviewed the tape and said, okay, it wasn't Booker's fault that I got injured.
Right.
It was just a freak accident with the body sweat and everything. So, because Booker T did the move right.
Yeah.
So, because, you know, in wrestling, you could do everything right and still get hurt. Yeah. So,
I mean, it sucks with him because he already had neck problems. He already had the surgeries and everything, and then that happened. So
yeah. And I hate to say this, I loved Owen Hart. I mourned his passing, but Owen wasn't very responsible with Austin with that pile driver.
Yeah.
I mean, it just wasn't. It just wasn't good. You don't land on your ass with a pile driver.
Right.
You land on your knees.
Right.
You land that way if you're doing a regular pile driver, but if you're doing a like where the person's reversed, you go on your knees and everything. So that was another thing too. Speaking of injuries with tombstones, Hulk Hogan claimed that the Undertaker injured him in one of their matches in the early 90s.
Really?
So the Undertaker's fresh meat in the WWF.
Yeah.
And here's Hogan claiming this injury, but everybody looked at the tape. His head didn't even touch the mat or the chair or anything.
Right.
Okay, so then what Hulk Hogan said was it was because you were hugging on to me too, not tight, and that's why my neck got hurt. Because I was too restricted.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that's another thing. When you come into a new promotion, you're under a lot of scrutiny at first. Mm-hmm. The Undertaker was under a lot of scrutiny at first. He wasn't this mythical legend that, even to like his last day was allowed to do a move that nobody else was allowed to do in the whole promotion. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's how much they trusted this guy. He was mythical. I had a girlfriend that made a mistake and tried to get interested in wrestling with me, and and she talked about how she noticed that the Undertaker, there was basically this reverence for the Undertaker, and I said that's the exact word for it.
Yeah.
There's reverence for the Undertaker. When he first started, there was no reverence for the Undertaker. He was the new guy.
Right.
And Hulk Hogan's claiming he got injured. It's not good.
Yeah.
Booker T, Steve Austin gets injured. Not good. Thankfully, he didn't get buried for that.
Right.
Steve Austin could have really blamed him for it, and they probably would have done something about it because of that. Booker T did struggle getting into the WWF, in the WWE, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is one thing we haven't touched on. Historically, the WWF, WWE has been a very racist organization.
Yep.
So people say, well, they did have The Rock. Well, okay, I'm gonna get this is controversial,
right?
But this is a wrestling topic,
right?
So I'm gonna talk about it.
Right.
Okay, I understand that The Rock is half black, half Samoan, but the WWE has always leaned into his Samoan heritage a lot more than they've leaned into his African American heritage.
Right.
He also looks Samoan. There's not been an African American world champion, with the exception of The Rock. But that's one of the things that's really weird is you had Ron Simmons. He was in WCW in the South.
Yeah.
And he became world champion.
Yep.
Now, that was in 1992. Okay, that just tells you how wrestling, how there's a racial issue in wrestling from the get-go. Because think about, like, all the first in African-American history. Yeah. And the first world champion, African-American world champion, was in 1992.
Yeah.
Okay, that's bad. That's bad.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So Booker T, who was like the Tiger Woods of professional wrestling, struggled for a long time until he got the King Booker gimmick.
Right.
Which was absolutely great. It was that you remember King Booker, don't you?
Yeah, I remember King Booker.
It was absolutely great. He would come out there and like sometimes he would speak like royalty English, and then he would get pissed off, and then like the slang would come out.
Turn back to Booker T. Yeah,
yeah, turn back to Booker T. And it was always great. It was always entertaining. And it was just awesome. It was just awesome. And so that's how Booker T, his gimmick worked for WCW, but it didn't quite have the same effect with the WWE until he changed the gimmick and he became a heel. So Booker T becomes champion. Now, in more recent times, there has been a lot of African-American champions in the WWE. It's gotten a lot better. We've had Bobby Lashley. We've had now Bobby Lashley also won the ECW title in the WWE too. We have Kofi Kingston, Big E, you know. So it's gotten better with that. Has AEW had a black champion yet? A black world champion?
No.
I didn't think so.
Jade Cargill was the first TBS champion.
They don't have a lot of black wrestlers, though, do they?
I don't think so. I know Scorpio Sky was tag team champion with Frankie Kazarian, I think. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure he was tag team champion. But as far as world champion, no. Of course, they haven't had many world champions either. So it was Jericho, Moxley, Adam Page, CM Punk, MJF now. I can't remember if that was the sixth one. But, yeah. Yeah, I don't think they have a lot of black wrestlers, I don't think.
Well, I think the reason why there's been part of the reason why this disparity of there not being as many black champions in wrestling is historically wrestling was viewed as like a white person's sport, a white man's sport.
Right.
Which I don't know how accurate that actually is.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the South there were a lot of African American fans historically. Yeah. I also wondered, okay, well, yeah, when you look into the crowd, you see a lot of white folks, but does that mean that it's the same demographic watching it on TV? So that's another thing that I've thought about too, is like this perception that it's a lot of white fans.
Yeah.
But obviously with all the African American champions we have had that have been well received by wrestling fans, either as fan favorites or booed as heels.
Right.
That we know that even if the audience is predominantly white by an unbalanced degree, wrestling fans do accept black champions very well.
Right.
And will continue to do so. And hopefully we will continue to have great athletes.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of black champions in history that I don't think got as far as they could have if wrestling wasn't booked the way it was,
right?
In a very racist way.
Well, since the pay-per-view this past weekend, Wrestle Dream, a lot of people are calling for Swerve Strickland to be champion now after his match with Adam Page.
Well, out of all the guys in AEW that I can think of, and you know, of course, I don't know everybody in AEW.
Yeah.
But he is by far the one that I would say
Yep.
probably deserves to have that opportunity.
Yep.
I can't think of anybody else that's up there.
There's I mean as far as African Americans, there's Powerhouse Hobbs.
You also have the tag team with the scissoring.
Forget their
we both can't remember their names. We can remember
Why am
the
I drawing
scissoring.
a blank on the Acclaim?
The Acclaim, yes.
Well, I mean, like their names. The Acclaimed, AEW. What are their names? Damn it.
You're the
Castor
AEW.
and Bowens.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I like those guys. Those guys.
They are the trios champions right now.
They are the trios champion with Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So it's good to know that AEW is pushing diverse talent that deserve to be pushed like these guys do.
Yep.
And so it's gotten a lot better. Wrestling's gotten a lot better with this. And I just hope that AEW is mindful of it, much in the same way that WWE's gotten a lot more mindful of it now.
Right.
Because historically, the AEW is new, but historically, the WWE has not been the greatest on that particular issue.
Right.
Some people say, well, why were certain black people entered into the Hall of Fame, like Coco Beware? Here's the thing you have to consider. Historically, these guys that were entered into the Hall of Fame didn't have the same opportunity the other guys got. These were the front runners that made the open doors for other wrestlers. Ron Simmons opened a lot of doors for African American wrestlers. So Bobo Brazil and people historically as well. So Junkyard Dog. So I don't know. I didn't intend to get on this topic, but here we are. can I just radically change topics?
Sure.
Okay.
Do whatever you want.
Collision. Okay. Being mindful of the time. Okay. So we talked about switching sides.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Before we get into Collision, let's talk about the two big names that are coming up right now.
Right.
Edge and Jade Cargill.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Both organizations are doing this well in some ways, and I think there's some things that could have been done better.
Okay.
Okay. Jade Cargill, well, on one hand, they're pushing her as like a big star in the WWE already.
Did I see correctly that they're throwing her on Raw right away?
No. She's going to the Performance
so that was fake
Center.
news.
That was fake news.
Okay, that was fake news.
She's going to the Performance Center.
Okay.
But she was very, very humble.
Yeah.
Like for a wrestler.
Yeah.
When talking about that.
Right.
She was like, well, basically I want to be in the WWE because I want to become a household name and I want to have the best trainers.
Yeah.
And the best people to support me to make that happen. Okay. Yeah. Very humble way of putting it.
Right.
Okay. What I think that maybe she could have done was been like, well, the WWE better be ready for me because I'm the best. And I'm going to be the world champion. And, I think she could have been a little more cocky about it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But the things that they're doing, like they're treating her like as a big star, and of course, they don't mention AEW, but they basically say that she's from the wrestling world and like an established person or whatever.
Yeah, she wrestled somewhere once, but now she's here.
Yeah. And I kind of almost feel bad for AEW. She's basically like I don't know. Did she lose like twice and that's it?
Yeah, something like
once
that.
Or twice.
She lost the TBS. I'm not even sure about that. She lost TBS title to Chris Statlander.
That might have been the only loss she had.
That might have been her only loss.
So she goes there, is undefeated, and then they're like, "Oh crap, she's leaving."
Yeah.
So they quickly have her job.
Yeah.
to is it Statlander or Stratlander?
Statlander.
Yeah. Okay. They quickly had her job to Statlander because holy crap, she's leaving.
Yeah.
Like she kind of screwed them,
Yeah.
And now the WWE is doing right by her by getting her the proper training so that she can become this superstar.
That's what I kept hearing about her the whole time in AEW was that she wasn't fully trained or something, that they brought her in based on her physique.
Her physique, yeah. Well, she looks like a star.
Well, yeah.
But she don't quite wrestle like a star yet.
Right.
And, maybe that's why that press conference wasn't quite as good because she still is not that great on the mic yet.
Yeah.
And, speaking of African-American, she's African-American.
Right,
so she's going to be another big star.
Right.
That, the WWE lost a major one with Sasha Banks, probably who is my favorite current wrestler, Mercedes Moné, for the New Japan fans. And so they lost a great wrestler with her, and so, their diversity pool wasn't looking as great.
Right.
But now they're bringing in Jade, and I think that that's going to be great for the women's division for multiple reasons once they get her fully trained and everything else.
Yep.
Of course, there's dream matches already with her, like against, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair. You're going to have like three beefy, muscular women.
Yeah.
At the top of this organization, okay? And it's going to be hard for the tiny women to make it because you're going to have three queens that are look the part, and you also have Raquel. I think it's Rodriguez now, but she's got to improve some before she gets up there. But she's got the body.
Right.
She's another one that has a good physique.
Yeah.
But let's talk about AEW with Edge, what they did good and what they did bad. Okay. Edge's debut, there's a picture floating around the internet all over the place. I've seen it multiple times that was done in an angle where you see like 50 empty seats.
Yep.
So it's like, oh my God, it's Edge. And it looks like he's at a bingo hall.
And you also, so that was real, okay? And I'll tell you how I know that was real. But the reason I bring that up is because I've seen several pictures pop up from crowds in AEW, and it was very misleading. Like somebody will take a picture of the crowd like way before the show starts, like when hardly anybody's there yet. Like,
I've seen stuff like that.
Like they're still filling in the arena. And they'll say, "Look, nobody's at this show," and I'm like, "Yeah, I was like 2 hours before the show." But I also saw a fan video of Edge's debut, and the camera pans over, and that whole side was like empty, basically. So yeah, one side of the arena was
so it was more than 50
empty.
seats.
And here's the thing about that arena. And I'm going to pause on that and go back to something real quick that I wanted to bring up. When we did the episode on whether or not there's a boom period in wrestling, we didn't touch on live attendance.
Oh yeah, we didn't.
As a measure of how wrestling's doing.
Well, let's talk about that.
Well, I'll finish but we'll get back to it. But I just wanted to bring that up because that's another reason why there's not a boom period, because the WWE's not selling out arenas either. They are getting more fans, yes, but they're not selling out either. But
are they? I heard that they were selling a lot of tickets.
I've watched several clips on Raw, and you can see like tarped off areas in the upper deck of arenas and stuff. So
it's not a good sign.
So like, and I went back and looked at numbers, like comparing Dynamite and Raw or Dynamite and SmackDown. SmackDown by far gets the most, obviously. But there's the ticket sales seem to be around 12,000 people for a WWE show, and AEW seems to max out at around 8.
Yeah, I saw a graph that showed that for the past year, AEW plus 8 promotions in Japan collectively sold 2/3 of the tickets that the WWE sold in the past year. Yeah, I don't know how true that is.
Well, I mean, if there's a 5,000 or 5,000 person difference between one show, one Dynamite show, and one Raw show, yeah, that'll add up.
So why are they upping the price of the tickets? Because we both
have
know
no idea.
The casual fans are not going to pay a fortune for a ticket, and the AEW basement dwellers can't afford it.
Also, okay, so I'm gonna give so this might be part of it. I don't know, but I'm gonna get back to Edge's debut and that specific arena. So I looked up that arena. That arena is a hockey and basketball arena. Those are the main tenets of that arena. It seats 18,000. Okay, those are the house seats for a hockey game or a basketball game. Now, when you have wrestling in an arena like that, you lose seats because of the set and the screens and everything. So the seats behind that don't get sold, right? Now, the floor seats make up for some of that, but not all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also saw that for some reason, AEW is configuring their arenas for a lot less than that. I'm talking about like 7,000, 8,000 max. I don't know if they want to lower it so they can say it's sold out because that's all that was available, even though there's more seats available, like physical seats actually available.
Man, that's a con.
It is. I hope that's not the case. That's speculation, by the way. That's just suggestion I heard.
Well, I believe it.
But I'm not just because I'm all elite, if you will. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're selling near as many seats as WWE. But yeah, that was an interesting thing that I read, that they are configuring the arenas for not very many seats. And so I don't know what's going on with ticket sales, with ticket prices, and the way they're configuring the arena. It's weird. I don't know.
It just looks bad for Edge to show up and half the arena be empty. It just looks bad. It's bad optics.
Yeah.
It's bad optics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The meme that I saw was Edge coming out, and then he's standing in the ring, and it says underneath it, God, I've made a mistake, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it looked like he was, if you're trying to present this image of AEW of being this great alternative to WWE, That's not how you do it. If you want to present AEW as like the next retirement home bingo parlor, then that's how you do it. Now, here's the thing that they did great. We don't have a nickname for Tony yet, so his name is Tony.
We'll come up with something.
He sent me the link with the YouTube video of Edge and Christian.
Yeah.
Doing on Dynamite.
Right.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's an instance where you give two people a live mic.
Yeah.
Because they're professionals and they're legends and they know what they're doing.
Right.
And you just let them have at it.
Right.
That's the correct way of doing it.
Yep.
And I mean,
they're not going to take advantage and go into business for themselves. They're going to do what's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no exploding super kicks and crap like that happen. Okay.
Yeah.
So this whole thing, which is great from the beginning to end. I mean, the emotion that Edge just poured into that. It was probably the best promo I've seen him do in a very, very, very long time. And that's not to say that he does bad promos. I'm just saying it was, I wouldn't dare say it was historically significant.
Okay.
Or it will be one day.
Okay.
I mean, it put chills up my spine when I watched it.
Yeah.
Like I said, a broken clock's right twice a day. Okay. Also, I've watched Collision.
Right.
So, like what I said, I don't watch much AEW because, I don't have traditional cable. I've had it in the past. And I just can't imagine spending money to get cable just to watch a product that I just don't like. But let me tell you something. There was something in the product that made me want to watch it some more, and I'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
Don't give it away, Lance. All right. So first of all, the first match was Juice Robinson versus Andrade.
Right.
Okay. I don't know who Juice Robinson is. I didn't know. I know who he is now. I've heard of him.
He's a Bullet Club guy. I'm pretty sure he came over from New Japan.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yep.
Andrade I've always liked
back
from when he was in the E.
Yeah.
So he didn't get a good fair but speaking of being released, AEW has really taken some good talent that the WWE has released.
Yeah.
And obviously that speaking of that does make AEW look better, that they don't release people like the WWE does.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, if I was a wrestler and I was looking for money and fame, I would go to the WWE. Yeah. If I was looking for a good boss, I would work for AEW.
Right.
Unless, except for the fact I don't want to get injured.
Sorry, you're going to take 3 exploding super kicks tonight.
So I wrote here in a text message until Tony said that don't spoil. I said, honestly, I was impressed by the opening of Collision, Robinson versus Andrade. I said, it was a good match. They did wrestling holds and wrestling moves. Had action and suspense.
Yeah.
Plus a well-defined heel and face.
Right.
Yep. Okay? Yep. It was a good match.
Right.
It was a good match. In case people wonder why I watched Collision, I was in the hospital with a relative and couldn't watch NXT pay-per-view, so I watched Collision.
Right.
Like I said, if it's around, I'll watch it,
Right, yeah. So you had a good taste in your mouth from the beginning.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next match is Best Friends versus the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And later in the match, I wrote, so far on a scale of 0 to 10 for burying the ref, with 0 being a classic wrestling match and 10 being Lucha Brothers, this match is a 5. And then later I wrote, now it's a 7 because the referee had to stop the count out. Okay. Yeah. Why? Okay. You know what would happen if I was a referee in AEW?
What's that?
I would count people out.
Yeah.
You would get counted out, even if that wasn't the intended result of the match. Barring a major championship match or something of historical significance, where I felt like it would be justified to, but not just a random match.
Mm-hmm.
Count them out.
Yeah.
Idiots won't get back in the ring. Count them out.
Yeah.
Start counting them out until they get in the ring. you know, it reminds me. It looks as bad to me as when you've seen like these indie refs that will like do a 3 count and the guy was supposed to kick out, but he doesn't. Yeah. So they have their hand in the air.
Yeah.
You've seen those matches?
Yeah, I know what
Lance?
you're talking about, yeah.
That's what it looks like to me.
Okay.
When the referee's doing a count out of 2 wrestlers outside the ring or 4 wrestlers outside the ring, we don't know who the legal man is.
Right.
They're all outside of the ring, and the referee's 7, 8, 9, and then stops, and then goes out there and like tries to get him to come back in the ring. It looks like that referee looking like an idiot with his hand in the air. Okay, you know what you do if the wrestler doesn't kick out of a 3 count that he was supposed to kick out of?
What?
You count to 4, and you hope the fans don't notice it.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
All right.
So I don't know what you're supposed to do when wrestlers just stay outside the ring for 90 days. But they got to figure out something, I feel like.
Right.
Now I understand what the thing is. It's kind of like a combination of the lucha style with the American style. But then say that. Just say that we're changing the rules of our matches in AEW, and we just don't value countouts. We don't value our refs. Mm-hmm. We don't value kayfabe. This is just a dance with people doing ballet on our tag matches. If you don't like that, just change the channel. Hope there's a singles match next, and just let that be the case. Don't try to portray it like a regular wrestling match when you're out there doing the song and dance and burying the ref and just doing whatever the heck you want to do. I mean, just say it. Do like Vince did. Admit that you know, he said, "Oh, this is fake." Tony Khan should come out there. Well, this is just chaos. Just there's no order to this. I have no control over my wrestlers. They do whatever they want, and we just let them have at it to make it more actionable. Okay? Just admit it. That's what you're doing. Don't insult people's intelligence by portraying this as like a wrestling match. Okay? So
you feel better?
Yeah. Maybe I need to watch more AEW for these wrestling podcasts. I mean, Lance, I'm just going to admit it. My favorite tag team match is inspired by the Southern wrestling style of match.
Okay.
You have a tag team. Mm-hmm. You don't have people just randomly entering the ring, unless it's a heel getting some heat or something. Mm-hmm. The babyface does what he's supposed to do, and the heel corner they corner the guy like FTR does. They corner him in their corner, and like the babyface is struggling to escape. He's trying to get the hot tag. Yeah, the fans are, you know, his face is just, he's just pleading for help from the crowd to empower him to make it to the other side of the ring, and his partner is just hoping that he can reach his hand, and finally he makes the tag. Boom! The face comes in, beats everyone up, and then you know, whatever's planned for the match happens. You know, but I mean, that people say, oh well, that's like formulaic or it's too predictable. Well, if it works. Works. It worked for decades. Yep. It still works. It still works. Every time you see a tag match doing that crap, the fans react. They pop. Yep. It never fails. Mm-hmm. If something never fails, what do? You don't fix it.
You keep doing it. Yeah.
You keep doing it. It's worked for eternity.
Yep.
And it doesn't look stupid. It doesn't look just ridiculous. It doesn't look like... It still looks like a fight.
Yep.
This guy's trying to win. He's trying not to lose.
Yeah.
The Hills have got him. They've got him.
Yeah.
But he's going to make it. He's going to get to that corner. He's going to get that tag. If the fans will just keep cheering for him, that's what we need.
Yeah. Yep.
Not 3 tope suicidas conducted on 3 different sides of the ring at 3 different crowds of people. I don't remember what the last match was, but it was also a tag match too. It was like, I don't know, 6-man, 8-man, or whatever. I just remember Daniel Bryan was in it.
Brian Danielson.
Brian Danielson.
I was hoping, folks, he would get pissed off there. Just go off on me.
Gosh.
So what you're saying is you didn't like that tag match.
There were some good things in the match, and there were some things I didn't like. Of course, Brian Danielson I like no matter what.
Right.
He was a good thing in to have in that match. But you had giant guys fighting little guys in this match.
Yeah.
And I tried, Lance.
Yeah.
I tried to keep an open mind. And it was so hard to suspend my disbelief as I watched these like tiny guys that you could take 3 of them put together and make me fight this giant 6'8" mammoth monster dude.
Yeah.
I struggled with it.
Yeah.
Now, actually, I remember the Hills winning the match. I don't remember any of the Hills except for Ricky Stark. I think he was the one that got the final pin. There was action.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's one thing AEW is good about in their style. It does have a lot of action in it, but it's just, I have a hard time digesting it. Now, let me tell you the part I liked was Julia Hart.
Did it keep your attention long enough to stay on the channel?
I was amazed and mesmerized.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now ring skills, she requires some work, but she's only 21 years old. It's extremely excusable.
Yeah.
Gimmick, ring gear, just the music, everything was great. What was it that I said about her?
Said lots of things.
Yeah. Here's a comment where I said that Edge and Christians need to have their tag team be the Canadian Rockers when they get to AEW. That was before, they find out they're not teaming together.
Yeah.
She's like the goth girl that turned you down, combined with sexy reverse gender Undertaker.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's basically like the gimmick, you know. I like the hat with the lights.
Yeah.
I mean, that was great. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, some of it was stuff I've seen before. I mean, it's a goth gimmick, House of Black and all that. And the music and the lyrics. Have you heard the lyrics to the song, Lance?
I wasn't really paying attention to the lyrics. How does it go? Are you going to sing it for us?
Well, can we play it on the thing? I mean, gosh. But
well, probably not legally.
It's always it's like basically a bunch of goth stuff and blood being black and all that. And at some point it says the house always wins, talking about the House of Black. I mean, her music is better than the Faction's music. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
I got some of the lyrics here, I think. You want me to read
Go ahead, read them. They're great.
Okay. Born from pain, inside my veins, bred for war, begging for more. None shall mourn, I am reborn. Live in sin, the house always wins.
I mean, isn't that awesome?
My heart grows harder, darker and darker, I see the truth. My blood flows black with you.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why I think that's significant. Okay.
Okay.
I've been a wrestling fan for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you want to listen to something terrible that will stick in your head forever for the rest of your life, you need to look up WCW American Male's theme.
Okay.
It's just a song. American males, American males, American males, American males, American males, American males, American males. Like, okay, I heard that song in the 90s, in the early 90s, mid 90s.
Yeah.
And I still remember the daggum song.
Yeah.
But it's not for a good reason. I just can't get it out of my mind. So I've heard, and the tag team was called American Males.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, which is a terrible name for a tag team.
Right.
Okay. So, so I've heard wrestling themes that had like nothing to do with the wrestler. When you listen to the lyrics or his gimmick or her gimmick, I've heard questionable content in my 30 plus years of watching wrestling. Okay.
Yeah.
That song, whoever wrote the freaking lyrics of that song did it right.
Yeah.
The song itself is right.
Yeah.
The gimmick is right. The only thing I kind of don't like is I don't like her singing along to the song. It's obvious,
that's what I was saying. I don't,
it's obvious that she...
To me, it feels cringy when she does that.
Yeah.
I've never...
She needs to stop that.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody sing along to their song that wasn't,
actually singing the song.
Right.
Yeah. Like if Chris Jericho went out and sung a song, which I can't stand, by the way, and the fans singing along with it. That's one thing I cannot stand is fans, like songs, like wrestlers that just stand there and the fans are singing the song. And that's just what's happening for 10 minutes. Seth Rollins does that bull crap. Chris Jericho does that bull crap.
Seth Rollins does it too.
Well, it's even worse with Seth Rollins because it's not even lyrics. The fans are just going, oh.
I did watch Raw, and I guess I just tuned out because I was like hating that show so much. We can get to that in a minute, though.
Oh my god! I can't stand it. I can't stand wrestlers just standing in the ring while the fans are cheering the song for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If I wanted to listen to your stupid song, I would download it on Spotify or stream it or whatever you do with Spotify. I wouldn't tune into wrestling to listen to your freaking song. I don't want to listen to your freaking song. I think it sucks. I think you suck. That's how I feel about Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho.
Okay. All right.
I like Seth Rollins more in the past. I don't like his current incarnation. So
yeah, it looked real like he was trying too hard or something.
Yeah.
It looked like he was trying really
Mr.
hard to
try hard
to be obnoxious or something.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't like the gimmick. I it's just
What is the gimmick? What?
that he's cocky, I guess. I don't know. He was like the Monday Night Messiah. That was pretty good. I like that.
Okay.
And then it turned into this. I don't even know what this is. And then you got Chris Jericho with his crap.
Yeah.
And what's even stupider is that Painmaker nonsense, or whatever the heck it's called. Was it Painmaker?
Yeah. I think that was a Japan thing or maybe a Mexico thing.
I don't know, but I saw it.
But he
and I was
brought
just
it
like,
back.
This is stupid.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't like it either.
So Julia Hart, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Like if she just gets the wrestling part down,
Yeah.
she's going to have it all. And another thing that I've heard is that the House of Black is doing a really good job mentoring her, which if you listen to our podcast about women's wrestling, you would understand that that's very significant because in the past, when men have mentored women in wrestling historically, it was always nefarious. So the fact that you've got guys that are professional stand-up guys mentoring this young woman who's just came into the business, I think that's great because historically in wrestling that has not been the case. Yeah. And I'm
glad that you saw. Okay, so that was the first time you've ever seen Julia Hart.
That's the first time
Okay,
I saw her.
I'm
I
glad
heard
you
her
saw-
name briefly here and there. It was the first time I saw her, and I was just blown away.
Okay, I'm glad that was the first time you saw her because you probably wouldn't have liked her when she first came in. So she was, I think she was a competitive cheerleader.
Yeah, she was
before wrestling.
I read up all about
came
her
in.
now.
Yeah, she came
everything.
in. Yeah, he's got her whole life story. But yeah, she came in as a cheerleader.
Yeah,
with Pillman and Garrison. Like basically their valet or whatever, and she didn't really do anything.
Yeah,
and then she got sprayed with the mist. And now she's
which
evil.
is awesome.
Yeah, and now she's evil.
Yeah, the mist made her evil. I mean, what more do you need as an explanation? I mean, first of all, I've always loved mist in wrestling, in whatever form it is. Like Asuka, she does her mist thing. I mean, mist. I mean, it belongs in wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just awesome. So the black mist or whatever, she's turning evil. I mean, it's good enough explanation for me. I buy it. So it's just amazing. And you know, I talked about in the past how much I've liked women's wrestling and everything. I honestly think I've thought about this before. I think women's wrestling is one of the reasons why after I actually stopped watching wrestling for a while, like aside from like big main events or whatever, no WWE, women's wrestling is what got me back into watching it regularly again. And I think I know the reason why. I've mentioned that in the women's division, the WWE, that the female talent's more versatile. Yeah, there. If you want to hear more about that, just listen to our previous podcast. But basically, a lot of the women like Charlotte Flair can do power moves. She can do moonsault. She can do it all. You know, she's not just stuck in one type of wrestling technique or whatever. Yeah. But also, it's just different. I mean, I for decades I just watched dudes wrestle. Yeah. And here's women wrestling. It's just different. Yep. You know, and that's to me is exciting to have. And you're seeing women wrestling being the biggest it's ever been. And to be honest with you, Lance, in the WWE, I wish there was more talent. But they do have a lot of female wrestlers. Yeah. But I wish they had even more. The women's division is better than the men's division, in my opinion. Okay. It's just better. It's just a better division. I mean, everything about it's better. I don't know why. I kind of wonder what's going on behind the scenes to make it better. You know, do they have like better writers? Do they have better producers for the women's stuff? I don't know, but it's just better in my opinion. And you know, maybe it's just because, you know, I've appreciated the fact that we've had women's wrestling when in the past we didn't have much of it. Right. And it was always treated as a sideshow for the longest time. Yeah. So, Lance, you watch Raw.
I regret the fuck out of that.
You watched the worst the worst show that they have.
Okay. Now, first off, I knew that going in. I knew that Raw is no longer their top show. It's
pretty
I knew
bad.
that. Yeah. So the first thing that I wasn't surprised about at all was kicking off the show with 20 minutes of talking.
Was it just 20 minutes or was it 40 minutes?
It was about 20 minutes, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's short.
Damn, really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna tell you what I don't like about the WWE as well. And I mean, hell.
Well,
you could go the whole first hour and have 5 minutes of wrestling content.
Holy shit. Okay, well, look, I mean, it just took me back to the Attitude Era when Triple H would go out there and grab the mic and talk for 20 minutes. And, I mean, he could talk, of course, but it got old. It was like every week this was happening, you know. Yeah. I've been watching AEW for 4 years now, and I'm used to kicking off with a match. Yeah. And having action right out of the gate.
They do better with that, yes.
It never fails. Like it's like you remember the Dynamite we went to. Tony Khan came out. It said we're about to start off with this match, which happened to be Bryan Danielson and Dustin Rhodes,
which was awesome.
How can you get better than that? Kicking off a show?
No, you can't. Actually, that match, Dustin Rhodes has a Facebook, and I follow his Facebook, and I made a comment when he posted, I guess a clip of that match, and I said in the comment that match was the best match I've seen in person in my whole life.
Yeah.
And he liked my comment.
Nice.
So I was very appreciative of that.
Nice.
Dustin Rhodes got my feedback about how good of a match that was. So yes, that match was it was by far the best match I've seen in person. I mean, it got Bryan Danielson, love the guy.
Yeah.
By the middle of the match, I was rooting for Dustin Rhodes. Like I knew he wasn't going to win, but my God, I wanted to see him win.
Right.
I wanted to see Dustin Rhodes win.
Yeah.
Go over Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
He had no right to go over him, but I wanted to see it because Dustin Rhodes made it look like he was trying to win. You wanted to root for the guy. You know what I mean? It was a great match.
Yep. Yeah. So 20 minutes of talking. It had something to do with the Judgment Day and something I forget. It wasn't memorable. It wasn't okay. And I'm going to get to something here in a minute. I'm going to cut loose like you did.
Okay.
But goddamn, and the very next match, I don't remember who it was, but you remember I said, here comes a couple guys with gimmicks straight from the Performance Center.
You were talking about Otis, I think his name is, and Chad Gable.
Chad Gable, yeah. And I don't remember what happened in that match. I'm just out of it from the beginning. I'm trying hard. I didn't finish the show. I didn't finish it. Okay,
it's hard to finish.
Yeah. So look, I'll just get to the point here. Okay. So I said these are guys coming out with gimmicks from the Performance Center. Now this is what I mean. I don't know where the gimmicks came from.
They didn't come from the Performance Center.
That's not the point. I don't care where it came
from. Maybe
Otis's
did. But
it was.
not Chad Gable's.
I don't care. It sucked. Here's the thing. I think I see how WWE works. I think I see what it's become. It has become an automated wrestling factory. Okay? Think of it as an assembly line. A build-a-wrestler assembly line. Okay? So, let's start at the beginning. And I could be completely wrong, but this is just from what I've seen, this is what feels like is happening, okay? You have a guy come into the Performance Center, or a woman. They get trained to be a professional wrestler. That part's fine, okay? And as they're training, they're moving down that assembly line, okay?
To NXT.
Okay, to wherever. So they're being trained, so they're moving down this assembly line, being trained, and then they get to a point where they're ready to be on TV, whatever it is, okay? And as they're on that assembly line and they're headed out the door, they're handed their gimmick. They're handed their ring attire. They're handed their script, and they're handed the merchandise for people to buy. It feels like a boxed up package that somebody in creative came up with for this wrestler, and this wrestler has no say whatsoever in it.
So,
as they're moving along the assembly, let me finish because this is great. As they're moving along the assembly line, they're trained. They're handed everything I just mentioned, their script, their gimmick, their ring attire, everything. And then that assembly line ends as they go out the curtain for their first show. That's what I think is happening.
It's even worse than that. Let me tell you.
Oh, my God. Now you're just going to ruin my night.
It's even worse than that. So what actually happens, first of all, I think you need to watch SmackDown to see that it's a better show.
Okay.
I don't watch Raw on cable. I watch it on Hulu. They condense 3 hours to an hour and a half. It's a lot more tolerable.
Okay.
There's no way I can watch Raw for 3 hours.
Okay.
I just can't do it.
Does that also show up on Peacock?
It's delayed on Peacock by 20 days.
Oh, 20 days?
Around 20 days, yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, fuck that.
Yeah, so you'd watch old episodes of Raw.
Right.
Now, NXT might be current. It used to be. I don't know if it still is since it's on USA. What has happened historically and has happened a lot, I'm going to use LA Knight as an example.
Okay.
So, well, let's talk about new wrestlers first. What's happened historically is you would have a wrestler train at the Performance Center.
Mm-hmm.
They would go to NXT, and NXT has historically been a lot more focused on the in-ring action. It's like AEW in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Just no exploding super kicks. It's stupid. It's crap. Not Chris Jericho having fans sing the song for 2,000 years. So the wrestler shows up. They're just giving a gimmick.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter because it's NXT.
Yeah.
We're just giving you something.
Yeah.
Because we got to give you something.
Right.
Okay. And they develop this great gimmick. Developing it into something that actually is good over time, make it work.
Okay.
Maybe have them in a faction, different stuff.
Right.
Have some good storylines, have some good matches. Mm-hmm. And then they show to Raw or SmackDown, and then Vince McMahon gives them a new gimmick. Okay. So a wrestler's gimmick could be in NXT, I'm just this. Let me give you an example. Like maybe the wrestler's gimmick is that I don't know. They're whatever. I mean, a muscular badass, and and they're vicious and they break people apart and all this other kind of stuff. And they go to Raw, and then Vincent's like, "You're going to be a hot dog salesman." And they got to make that shit work. Okay? So let's use LA Knight as an example. Okay? LA Knight, who's now one of their biggest merchandise sellers, who is on the route to being their biggest star, right now is probably in their top 5 most popular wrestlers. He's my favorite right now.
Yeah.
And he wrestled in NXT as LA Knight. Okay. He only spent a year in NXT because he's good. He didn't need a lot of time to develop.
Right.
To get used to the product. And, they do make veteran wrestlers go to NXT with some exceptions. Because, they got to get them used to the WWE ring and the production way of doing things and the culture.
Yeah.
They have to kind of indoctrinate them into the way the WWE does things. And a lot of wrestlers from the indies maybe don't have the best mic skills, things like that.
Yeah.
LA Knight really probably didn't need the amount of time that he needed there. They could have just thrown him on the Raw and just said, "Here, have at it." But he went to NXT, had some great matches, had a great angle, became the $1 Million champion in an angle involving Ted DiBiase and Cameron Grimes, who's fading into obscurity on the main roster, being a 3-minute jobber. So LA Knight gets to Raw or whatever, and Vince McMahon's like, "Oh, you're going to be one of the maximum male models." And so,
the fuck is that?
Yes. His gimmick was that he was a model with the 2 other guys that were also models. LA Knight.
So he couldn't be LA Knight.
He couldn't be LA Knight. Anything that resembled LA Knight, it was stripped away.
So what was his name?
Max Dupree. Max Dupree. And LA Knight is such the professional that he tried to make it work. He did the best he could with this garbage. This horse crap. I mean, a model gimmick, that's never been done in wrestling before. It was terrible. So Vince McMahon then left because of the sex scandal, and he should have stayed gone.
Yeah.
And Triple H just went up to him and said, "You know what? I'm going to let you be LA Knight."
Yeah.
And then, boom.
Yeah.
Triple H went up to him, "I'm going to let you be LA Knight."
Yeah.
And now Vince McMahon loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet he does.
But his idea was for him
Yeah.
to be Max Dupree, the model. So it's even worse than what you're saying, Lance. It's even worse.
Well, in his case, you took a guy. I mean, that's a lot different than taking a brand new guy that's never wrestled before and training him, but you're taking a guy who's already good. He's been good everywhere he's been.
Has a good gimmick.
Yeah, and you could have brought him in, like you said, thrown him on a main roster, and he'd have been fine. But and then Vince comes up with a stupid gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Vince didn't leave in that short period of time and Triple H didn't let him turn back to being LA Knight, his career probably would have died. So it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
So someone like, so WWE, someone like Jade Cargill, they're probably going to do really well with her. They've got a lot of people behind her. Someone like LA Knight almost got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Because Vince McMahon decided he was going to be a model.
And you know what kind of frustrates me more than anything with the new guys that they bring in, they're not letting them truly develop anything. Because they're everything's given to them. Everything they say, how to act. So you have no idea if these guys can actually develop into something like an LA Knight. LA Knight did it on his own. So isn't the best way to if money isn't a factor, but it always is, of course. You can make more money in WWE than anywhere else wrestling. But as far as developing your own character and gimmick and everything, you're better off just going to the indies and working on it yourself.
Yeah.
And then maybe if you're lucky, AEW pick you up, and then maybe you can go to WWE later and make your money, but whatever.
Well,
that's what Jade Cargill did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
She went about it the right path.
Yeah.
She picked the right path.
Yeah, yeah.
And, one day MJF's going to go to the E. And we'll see what they do with him.
Yeah, that scares the shit out of me.
One day Julia Hart's going to go to the E.
We'll
see what they do with her.
Yeah, now Julia Hart, they'll definitely do their own thing with her. MJF has a better chance of keeping his gimmick.
He does.
Than Julia Hart.
Yeah. Well, they might not like it because it's very Undertaker-y.
Yeah, right.
It's like Undertaker with lace.
Yeah.
But, once again, LA Knight, it's like Steve Austin and The Rock. I mean, I don't mind wrestlers borrowing from other wrestlers.
Yeah.
I mean, people say Julia's Hart gimmick is nothing like the Undertaker. Look at her hat. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It looks like the Undertaker's hat, but it has red lights in it.
Right.
Okay. Which is awesome. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I just when I saw it, I was just like, oh my God. But enough about Julia Hart.
Are you sure?
I can go on forever. So you watched a little bit of WWE and was probably very disgusted by it. I actually watched a little bit of AEW and I actually liked some of it.
Yeah.
Some of it.
Yeah.
Of course, there's other parts I wanted to vomit.
Yeah.
But there were some parts that were pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Tuesday Night War. Tuesday Night War, Lance.
Yeah.
The Tuesday Night War. Man, the AEW Reddit moderators have come out in full force for the Tuesday Night War.
Yeah.
Okay? Man.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God. They're freaking out because the WWE is actually responding to it. Okay, first of all, if I was in charge of WWE financials and product in general, I would do more than what the WWE is doing right now.
Okay.
I wouldn't be just trying to win ratings on Tuesday night. If I was a businessman, I would believe in, it'd be kind of like a war. I believe in air superiority.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're going to move Raw to Wednesday night, and we're just going to squash you like a bug. That's what we're going to do. We're peace and strength. Okay? I wouldn't let people say, they're admitting that AEW is a threat. Yes, they're a threat. Do you think that AEW would not eventually try to like wipe out the WWE if they could at some point in the future. The fact, look at what happened with WCW. Ted Turner calls, I'm in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon very smugly,
Yeah.
oh, I'm in the sports entertainment business.
Right.
Well, he almost got his sports entertainment ass wiped off the face of the earth by wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay. He let the WCW thrive. And then when he let talent go, and WCW had that big pocketbook.
Yeah.
Took all the talent.
Yep.
And then, you know, talking about empty arenas, if you want to look at some empty arenas, look at some fan footage from 1997.
Yeah. I bet.
I mean, empty.
Yeah. I bet.
Empty. Okay.
Yep.
Make AEW look like a packed house.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would squash them like a bug. If I was, if you know, I was making money, if the WWE was paying me to win,
Yeah.
I would squash them. I would squash them flat.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not how I feel as a wrestling fan. That's how I would feel as a business person. So I would do more than what they're doing. I would not stop at the Tuesday Night War. I would say this. Okay, you beat our C product. Let's see how you do against SmackDown. Let's see how you do against Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
And I would destroy them. Okay. And I would do it during WrestleMania season. I would have LA Knight win the Royal Rumble. And then we're going to have lead up to WrestleMania. Either have The Rock, Roman Reigns, and LA Knight do like a triple threat match or something.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'd have Cody Rhodes against Seth. I mean, we would just be booking this stuff. I mean, booking it for destruction. Okay, that's how I would do it. The YouTube commenter about, oh, you just don't want people to have jobs. Well, if I was the one getting my pockets filled by WWE, I would make sure they had no job. None of them. Okay? Now, this is what I say as a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Okay? In my opinion, they're doing it wrong by having these big names suddenly just appear on NXT for no reason. They should have now should they have just had a regular NXT show? No. It deserves a response. You're coming on to our night after we left your night.
Right.
And I don't know if AEW didn't have a choice in which night they can move to or whatever, but to me it seems deliberate.
Okay.
I would say this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a really good NXT show tonight. We're going to have like a rematch with Braun Breaker and Carmella Hayes. We're going to have a rematch, a special stipulation. This is to be the third match in their feud between Trick Williams and Dominic Mysterio or whatever. I haven't watched it, but I heard it like they've been fighting back and forth for the North American title. I would have Becky Lynch against, say, Cora Jade or something. You know, that I don't think that match has happened yet. I would have some really good title matches. I would have some I would have some special stipulations. Yeah. Maybe throw in a steel cage. I mean, do something really awesome with your NXT talent that you have on the roster currently. I know that Becky Lynch is
bringing on Cena and whoever else are bringing on.
Now, granted, Becky Lynch is a big talent. She's the biggest female talent.
Why is she in NXT?
Well, for one, the NXT title is like the only belt that she could still go for that she didn't win.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, you want to talk about bad gimmicks? Becky Lynch's original gimmick was a dancing Irish girl doing the Irish jig.
Oh my God.
Yeah, all the stuff that she's doing now, being the man. Yeah, you know how the man started, right?
It was a feud with Charlotte. Right?
Yeah. She started calling herself the man.
Yeah.
So, and that it just stuck.
Yeah.
It just stuck. So she's the biggest female talent they got right now. Although Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair are certainly up there with her. She's in NXT because it's the only belt she never won.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2, she's there to bring ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3, she's there to boost and support the women's division. There's a lot of great matches you can have with Becky Lynch. I mean, she's pretty much done everything in the main brands.
Okay.
So there's a lot of talent in the WWE that she can make look good.
Okay.
And Becky Lynch is good at making people look good.
Yeah.
I mean, she's great. I mean, she's going to be a Hall of Famer. She's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's already done great work there already, and it's just going to get better for however long she's there. Now, the WWE has, for quite a while, brought talent from the main roster. Like, they had, dadgummit, what's his name? I'm having a brain fart like you are. Judgment Day guy. Finn Balor.
Okay.
Yeah, they had Finn Balor come down. The New Day came down. So they've done this before. They've had top talent come to NXT. I would say Becky's probably the biggest one they've had come down.
Okay.
I mean, having Becky come down is almost like having Roman Reigns come down or Brock Lesnar almost.
Right.
So that's what I would do as a wrestling fan. That's what I would like to see. I would have preferred to see, and that might be, they might do some of this stuff on NXT, but they're obviously, what they're advertising is the big names to show up. Okay. Who do you think is going to win the Tuesday Night War?
Okay, so first off, this is one night.
Yeah. That's why I say the war, not wars.
Well, WWE is going to win. If you remember earlier, I brought up it was the first episode of TNA where they decided to go head to head with Raw.
Yeah.
And in that episode, they brought back Bret Hart, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So they're just doing that. They have the weapons to do it, so they're doing it.
The weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah. But I'll be watching Dynamite. I'm not falling for that again.
Well, honestly, I don't see what they're really having that's going to appeal to an AEW fan aside from maybe Cody. I could see a fan being curious about what is Cody doing right now. Why is he on NXT? Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just not how I would have handled it. I mean, if you're going to have competition, let it be competition, and just have NXT put on a big show. Big show for their talent. Mm-hmm. And if it fails, it fails. It's just one night, like you said.
Yep.
And if here's the thing: if it succeeded, if NXT Performance Center talent, straight out of the Performance Center, beats AEW and their legendary roster from across the world,
yeah.
I mean, that would be a painful defeat.
Yeah.
But see now, if all the AEW fans, if they lose that night, they're just going to say, well, it's because the WWE brought all those big names. And it's true. That's what they did. So that's what they're doing. So it's not going to prove anything aside from maybe keep the WWE's ratings up higher. It's not going to help anything. It's just going to be kind of pointless and petty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's yeah, it's to me it just looks like an overreaction. But if AEW is not a threat, then why are you doing this?
It does seem like an overreaction. Yeah. I mean, I looked at the ratings from the Wednesday Night Wars. Mm-hmm. NXT's ratings were not. They were hurt, but they weren't hurt like extremely badly.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like threatening the show or the product. Or
yeah, it's not like WWE is going to go bankrupt.
Right.
They lost like 200,000 people or something.
Yeah. I mean, NXT did win some weeks.
Yeah, they did.
So I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, that AEW wasn't squashing anybody.
Also, NXT wasn't the greatest product along that time too.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while they did this really stupid NXT 2.0 gimmick thing.
Well, speaking of responding to AEW, that was a direct response to AEW. I felt
oh my God, and it was so bad. Well, first of all, they took Triple H out of the picture.
Yeah.
And then they did this exploding paint crap.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing that AEW had at that time.
Yeah.
Was paint stuff.
Yeah.
It was an obvious
Mm.
and obvious attempt to rip them off.
Yeah.
And I know why, because the pool of your Raw or SmackDown viewer does not have a whole lot of overlap with your average Dynamite or Collision viewer.
Mm.
But your pool of NXT viewership
Mm-hmm.
has significant overlap with AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Because NXT has that more indie-like flavor.
Right.
And they don't have referees counting the three with their hand up in the air, and they don't have refs, stopping a count out and it's just wait 30 years for the wrestlers to get back in the ring. It's not that bad,
Right.
but it does have its indie flavor. You do have
Yeah.
your Canadian destroyers. You do
Mhm.
have that's another thing too. Okay, we're about to wrap this show up because we're going too far.
We're at an hour 40.
Yeah. Why is it in the WWE that a pile driver is banned, but a Canadian destroyer is allowed?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I pick you up and I drop you on your head, that's a dangerous maneuver.
Right.
But if I flip and drop you on your head,
Yeah.
it's acceptable.
Yeah.
Also, the Spanish Fly. How is that even hurting the other person? You're the one flipping backwards.
I don't know.
It's these staple indie moves
Yeah.
that, if you can't perform, you don't got the indie cred, But my God, you see like 50 of them on an NXT show, and you see about 100 on an AEW program. Whatever happened to a wrist lock? Jericho, you've made a list of moves once.
Yeah.
Arm bar. Arm drag. Arm bar.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're done, folks.
All right, let's we'll what are we gonna call this show anyway, this episode?
Chaos, just like AEW.
Chaos just like AEW. All right.
This is what happens when you have two marks that are unhinged without scripts.
This is what happens when you let the boys do what they want. All right, so
And the next thing you know, I'm going to do a exploding super kick in Lance's face.
All right, well then, till next week or whenever we do this again, Lance Vaughn and Glenn Ritchie. We'll see you later.
Peace.